Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm the gnarly gnome. This is not a show. This is the weekly pint, and my internet is already fighting me this early into the evening. So, here we go as usual. I swear I have no idea how to make this work anymore. I I've restarted everything. It is so frustrating, and I feel like the last 2 weeks, if you guys, I think it's the last 2 weeks, if you guys have been paying attention, this show has not even happened because of all of the chaos that has been going on, and here we are again, and there's more chaos. It is so frustrating, and I can't even express how angry it makes me. I don't know if the solution is to, I don't know, to try to run a separate cable line into the house, to run an entire separate internet signal into the house. I don't know if it's the internet. I don't know if it's somebody streaming something upstairs that is just making everything. I don't know. It makes me. It makes me insane. It really makes me insane. It makes me not want to try to keep doing the show from my house because it just over and over again doesn't work. I'm sorry. I don't mean to start this thing off being all grumpy, but damn. Hopefully it at least sounds okay, even if it doesn't look okay. It's pretty silly when a show from the middle of a Chris Kindle market looks and sounds better than one from my basement run straight into a hard wire for the internet. It just doesn't make any sense. None of it makes sense. I don't know if I should stop the show and reboot everything again or what, but I'm sorry, guys. So this is the weekly pint. It's a happy hour, an excuse for us to all hang out and have a beer together, have a drink together, talk about what's going on. And clearly, what is going on right now is technical difficulties. If you want to take part in the show, you can always do so by calling in. The phone number is right here on the screen: 567-70-DRINK. That's 567-703-7465. You can just call right in that way, or you can, of course, take part in the chat wherever it is that you are watching the show. It works that way too. I need a studio. I need a studio outside of my house where I can just avoid all of this. Although we know that wouldn't work either because my kids never want to go to bed. I don't even know what this sounds like for you guys. I don't know if this is even listenable. It is so frustrating. It makes me mad. Today's we're going to drink a beer vent beer, but I think it's important to talk about why this beer vent beer is what it is. It is today is National Ding-a-ling Day. This is from Jason at Higher Gravity. He says that it's a day where you're supposed to call up an old, out-of-touch friend and chat. Elijah says the video is laggy, but not the worst. All right, well, at least as long as it sounds okay. Audio sounds okay. Gets a little garbled sounding now and then for a brief instant, but perfectly listenable. Josh says, it's my day, I'm a ding-a-ling. The beer was chosen for today because the cans always say, "Hi, neighbor." And they do. There it is. And it's not even going to focus on it because, there we go. Hi, neighbor. This is Narragansett. It is the official beer of the clam. Should I feel bad calling an old out-of-touch friend because I don't want to bother anybody. Is this are you supposed to call an old, like physically old, out of touch, like they're out of touch with the world, friend to chat? Or are you supposed to call up somebody that you haven't talked to in a long time? I don't know. This is the first time that I've ever heard of National Ding-a-ling Day. Julia says, "Call Marco. He's old and out of touch." That was my first instinct. He is the oldest out of touch person that I know. It's not even true. All right, let's crack this boy open here. I've had this beer plenty of times. It's nothing to write home about. Nothing to call home about. It's not bad. It's good beer. It's a fine beer. It is the famous Narragansett Lager. It is made on honor. On top, that's what that says. I don't even know what that means. Made on honor. How do you make something on honor? The famous Narragansett since 1890. Well, I don't know how long these sit on the shelf, but 1890 seems pretty old. The official beer of the clam. Oh, it's made on honor, and then down at the bottom it says it's sold on merit. Made on honor, sold on merit. Okay. And then it says, "Hi neighbor, have a Gansett." I think I will. Narragansett Brewing Company, Rochester, New York. You can write or visit them at 461 Main Street, Pawtucket, Rhode Island. It's made in New York. They're in Rhode Island. Okay. There's some kind of shenanigans going on there. And that's all it says. Let's dive in. It is a crispy boy. A good-looking beer. It's fine. It's better than what a lot of craft lagers these days look like, right? All right. Smells like an American lager. Oh, the internet. I can't handle this. Every time I look up and I see that there's a big red box that's telling me to stop because something is wrong. All right. Elijah says his beer tonight is a Fantôme Extra Cherry. That is a heck of a beer. That is just fine. I am perfectly okay with that. I've been really, really enjoying the beer vent this year. Higher Gravity is just knocking it out of the park and doing their thing just absolutely perfectly. They yesterday's beer, the Duvel 666, just perfect because it's one of those beers, and I say this a lot during beer vent season, but it's one of those beers that I would never pick up or very rarely pick up off a shelf for myself. But when I get it, I really enjoy it and I really appreciate it. So hats off to them for what they've been doing with us this year. Yeah, I think everything has been pretty freaking tasty so far. There's been definitely some that were better than others, but so far, everything good. Things have been chaotic, as usual, in my life. It seems to be the theme with every time I talk about my life. I went to take off to go get some work stuff done today. Went to get out, and I got my car and went to start it, and car didn't start, so that sucked. So I got to fix that tomorrow before some work stuff that I have to do tomorrow afternoon. So that's my morning that I get to look forward to, is trying to fix my car. And then my wife is sick, so that's always awesome. That makes life easier. Luckily, both the kids are not sick as of right now, so that's good. I know that there is plenty of sickness going around right now, so hopefully the rest of us in the house avoid that for as long as possible. That's exactly what I don't need right now, is to get sick. I can get sick in like maybe January. January, I'm okay with it. I can take like a week or so in January to be sick, but December, no go. So I need to avoid that. If you guys haven't really been paying attention, which I assume most people have, we've been doing live. I say we. I mean, I have had people with me. I guess we is a fair statement. I've been doing live episodes of Drinking with the Gnome every week down at the Cincinnati Chris Kendall Market, down at the Moorline Lager House. We're doing that all December. We have episodes scheduled every single Thursday, and then I'm trying to turn them around as quickly as possible, get the podcast up, and then get some video content up around it too. In addition to that, trying to keep up Cincy Brewcasts every single week. I'm determined not to miss any weeks in December. That's usually the time of the year that I slack on Cincy Brewcast is Christmas time, because it becomes very hard to schedule things. The family life schedule gets a little more chaotic, so I'm trying to avoid that this year of missing any. Caroline says, made it in. Just finished recording our mini episode of our HG Beer Vent Box today. Joe says, hello, Gnome. Hello, guys. Since you're just joining, I'm apologizing now for the crappy internet that I'm being plagued with right now. The streaming software tells you how many dropped frames you have, so how much of the video you guys are missing because it's just jittering and being crappy. You've currently missed 53.6%, 53.7%, 6, 7. It's bouncing back and forth of every video frame. So you're only seeing half of the show. That's how bad it is tonight. Which means we're probably going to end up cutting it short. Even though I'm really happy with the setup tonight. Because we've been doing those live shows, and I'm gonna, especially last week, I had to break everything down because of some technology that I don't know where I put it. Some technology that is failing me, so I had to replace. So I pulled the studio mixer that usually stays right here, that should stay here. I had to pull that whole thing out and take it last week with Marco. So the setup last week for the live show was pretty intense, and it meant tearing all of this out and loading it up and taking it down there, and then today setting it all back up, which is so bad. Elijah says, just brand tonight as a 2006 throwback. All right. The audio is as crisp as your beer. I like that. Tim says that I'm on his phone, so the video isn't as important as the audio. I'll take it then. It still bothers me, especially since I can see that little box up there that's just telling me that the internet is bad. If I couldn't see that, it may not be as terrible. But the point is, I've got setting all this up everything is perfect right now. I'm currently looking at if we count my phone and if we count the Stream Deck, which I think we should count those as screens also. I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 different screens going on right now, and everything's working perfect. Except for the internet. Normally there's something here that's not working. So, of course. It's funny because I talk to a lot of people about about podcasting and about live streaming and things like that. And people talk to me like I know what I'm doing. Because I've been doing the podcast for 8 years? We're just about at 8 years for the podcast. I've been doing we started live streaming right at the beginning of that. I think episode 4, something like that, was the first episode of Cincy Brewcast that we live streamed. We've been doing this show that is not a show now for almost 2 years. This is what episode is this? This is episode if we count episodes of this as a thing. This is episode 153. So we've done 153 weekly or close to weekly live streams. That's more than 2 years. That's 3 years, right? We've done a lot of these things. And so it's funny when people talk to me about it, it makes sense that I should know what I'm doing at this point, and I can lend advice or whatever. But then I look at nights like tonight where everything looks great, and it looks like everything should work perfect, and then yet it's not. um, we uh, I don't know. It's sometimes it's disheartening when you when you spend so much time working on something and you still just can't figure it out. At the same time, like it's always fun trying to fix things and trying to figure out what's wrong. Um, and I'm pretty sure just the only thing that's wrong tonight is our shitty internet, which doesn't make sense because if I check the internet, everything looks like it's fine. So I don't know why. I don't know why it's dropping frames like this. Oh, it's my life. That's the real answer. Um, Joe says you can't control the internet though. That was the biggest thing when we started Cincy Brewcast and we were live streaming every episode while we recorded it, which was fun. I enjoy having some of that feedback from people, or even if you're not like actively getting people commenting and stuff like that, like we do here. And we never, in those early days of it, we never had the feedback the same way we do here on this show. Or if we did, we didn't have somebody always monitoring comments and stuff on the stream. We would have to like periodically throughout the show go in and pull up the stream and check and see what people were saying. So we didn't have that like active back and forth. But even without that, like it's just it helps it to like to feel like you are talking to somebody and to have some kind of person on the other end, I guess. Joe says, I remember those. You always had your hat down super low. From the first ones, the early ones, I wasn't even on camera. Like we tried to set it up to where you couldn't see me at all. But that was pretty early. We shifted that. If you go back and like I've got pictures. We used to take pictures every time we would have somebody on the show. We would all get together afterwards and take a picture of all this. I should probably do that more often now, honestly. But it's too much. We'll talk about that. But we would always take a picture of Mike, Tina, and our guests, and I was never in it. Like I would always just take the picture so that I wasn't in the picture because I was still kind of anonymous. I was synonymous with anonymous. But going back to the last thing about just too much. I mentioned it a little bit on this week's Brewcast, especially now incorporating video into the show. So when I'm shooting these shows, I'm setting up the podcast like normal, which I've got that pretty well down to a science at this point. Like I can get especially if it's like just me and a guest, a 2-person podcast, I can set it up and be ready to go in 5 minutes, and be ready to hit record. You throw video into that, and all of a sudden there's a whole other thing that you have to think about. Caroline says now you're posting videos hatless. I think I've only done two hatless videos. That's a thing. Again, when I started actually showing my face on stuff, or even just when I started going places as the gnome, that's kind of when I started wearing hats so much. Like I didn't really wear hats a lot before that, but when I would go somewhere, I would wear the hat to kind of, to kind of hide myself a little bit and make it a little more fun. So that's kind of why I almost always wear hats now. It's just because of the anonymous nature of the gnome, I guess. Anyways, setting up a bunch of cameras, which there's 2 right now. I set up usually 2 cameras. Probably should be setting up 3 cameras. You are then also worrying about the audio, also trying to get audio into the videos that you're recording just to speed up the editing process, which is the biggest bottleneck of all of this. It's easy to record a video. You then still have to go home and get that video, drop it into editing software, you sync everything up, make the cuts between different cameras and stuff. Like it is, it's a lot. When when I'm doing these live shows here in studio, like I don't have anything else hooked up, but I can switch between camera. Like that's the other camera, which is black because there's not another camera hooked up. But I can switch between them pretty quickly and do it that way. But if I'm actually running an interview, like I can't think about changing cameras while I'm recording. You really needed a separate person to do that. So I just do it afterwards. I do it in post, which is a lot. It's a lot of work. So you add just all of that stuff into it. There's always something that I just forget to do, be it take a thumbnail for YouTube or hit record or something like that. Luckily, with most of the things that I do, if I don't hit record on the podcast recorder, which is the ideal way to do things, I do still have a backup recording that is always there. So I won't, knock on wood, I shouldn't lose shows anymore. You need a producer, David. I can't afford to pay anybody anything anymore. I am scraping by at this point, trying to make all of this keep working and to keep things growing and keep things evolving and keep making more. And that's kind of the name of the game with all of this, is just to make a lot of content. Someone that works for beer. Even that is not always easy. Even beer is probably the biggest expense in all of this. Don't get me wrong. Like sometimes, a lot of times, most of the time, I'll say, if you go to record an episode of Cincy Brewcast, you're probably somebody's buying you beers, be it somebody from the brewery or somebody else, whatever. We won't have to get too deep into that, but usually I'm not buying beers, but the times that I am buying beers, and I try to, if I have a guest with me, I try to make sure they're not buying beers while they're on my show or buying drinks while they're not on my show. I try, but like it can be a big expense sometimes. If you're going down somewhere and you're hanging out and drinking a bunch of beer all night and you have 2 guests, that's not cheap. Then you throw a producer into it, that's not cheap too. Then you also have to balance out that idea too of if you're bringing somebody onto a show as a producer, you may not actually want them to be drinking. One of the hardest parts about making beer podcasts or beer videos or anything is that there is alcohol that is involved, obviously, and sometimes it's hard to balance out that act of hanging out and drinking and having fun and still getting everything that needs done. So if you have a producer there, you want them to be the one that is making sure things are getting done, which usually probably means them not really drinking, which who wants to go work on a beer podcast if you don't really get to drink all that much? You just sit around people drinking. You become like the parent all of a sudden, where you have to drive people around and supervise and pack things up and unpack things, and it's difficult. I always feel guilty when my wife goes with me to stuff, because by the very nature of that, she's probably not going to drink as much as I am, which means she's probably going to be the driver. It also means that she's often just kind of hanging out while I am running around enjoying myself. No, this chair is actually not that comfortable the more I sit in it. So not only is it loud, I assume you guys can hear it like creaking and groaning the whole time. Not only is it loud, it also isn't really comfortable. Maybe that's the next big investment here in the studio. Caroline says, I need a mom producer who can still wrangle everything, even with a buzz. My problem, too, is that I don't really... I struggle trusting people with all of that responsibility. If I screw something up, it's my fault, and I can deal with that, and I can accept that. I can blame myself for it. If somebody else messes something up, and say we lose footage or lose audio or something, and just don't have it for the show, I can't handle that. I don't like that. I don't like it at all. So I've never been able to really find somebody that I really trust all that much. People can come in and help me with stuff, but just periodically here and there with little things. I like having people on as guests and having them help contribute with their thoughts and opinions and stuff like that. Much rather that than somebody to try to actually manage things. I assume that there will come a day where that is just going to have to happen, just by the nature of it. If especially as the business side of it all keeps growing, at a certain point, you're making more than one person can do by themselves. Which I'm not there yet, but at some point, I guess ideally you hope to be there. I've thought about that a lot with, especially with video stuff. Like I love doing the live stream. The live stream is fun. I have such a good time editing a video podcast. So much fun. Like I enjoy putting it all together. I enjoy recording it. I enjoy that process a lot. Cutting it up, I think that's fun. Finding fun little clips in there and stuff. I think it's great stuff. But it is very time consuming, and like I know that there are plenty of podcasts out there that I could lend that service to, and I could help them and run the video side of what they're doing. But it would suck up so much of my time during the week that it just becomes cost prohibitive to me and to them. The amount of money that I would have to charge somebody to do that for them, to make it make sense for how much time I would be spending out of my week to do it, all of a sudden doesn't make sense for a podcast. For anybody that's jumping on this, and maybe you already have a podcast, maybe you're thinking about starting a podcast. It's not not that you can't make money doing it, or you can't. Certainly, you can make it pay for itself. I don't think making it pay for itself is hard at all. But to make it to where it in itself becomes a thing that generates income is almost impossible, depending on what your topic is and what other stuff you have that exists around it. Yeah, it's podcasts. Just there's not a ton of money in them. Julia says, "Can't tell you how many times I got yelled at for trying to help set up and take down stuff at Chris Kindle Market. You're not unwrapping the cable right. Step back, just step back now." Slight exaggeration, or my truth. I was calm with you. You should have seen the state of all of the equipment after the show last week with Marco. Because I brought so much, I loaded it into one of the the big podcast transport case is what I'll call it. I don't know if you guys can't see this here. I have the small case that if you have ever seen me out and about recording, this is probably what you've seen me with. It's just a small case. I can fit a 4-person show in there, but it's real tight, like really, really packed in there. Anything bigger than 4 people has to go into the medium case, at least, which the medium case is just a big case that you have to carry. It's a pain in the butt. The big case, there's a pop-up that just popped up. My daughter is trying to buy some kind of an app. It's a daycare something or other. What's the name of the app? Let's see. It's called... Oh, I missed it. I can't pull it up anymore. My wife must have already got to it. The big case has wheels. So you can fit a lot of stuff in it. I can fit all of the video stuff and the podcast stuff and a computer and a case of beer in it and be okay. Not that I've ever tried that, but anyways, because I brought the big case after the show, I didn't really have to pack things carefully. I mean, you should always pack things carefully, take care of your equipment, whatever. But sometimes it's easier, especially when it's a little chilly outside and you just want to get inside and have some beer and eat some onion rings. It's easier just to kind of toss stuff in there. So when I got stuff out, actually this morning is when I started really unpacking everything. It was a little chaotic. None of the cables were wrapped up. It was just a big, you know that scene in Christmas Vacation where he pulls out the Christmas lights? There's a little knot in this one, Russ. That's what it was like, just with everything. There was headphones wrapped up with mic cables, wrapped up with mic stands, with a mixer stuck in the middle. It was a lot of stuff. Marco says, can't tell you how much money we don't make. And then Tim says, I assume you were working for beer. Yeah. People think that people think it's a little more glamorous than it is sometimes. No matter how many free beers people give you, it will always cost more money than it would otherwise. There's Tim says, Julia, not Gnome. I actually don't think I bought Julia a beer that night. Actually, that was the night where Julia was on the show. Christian Moorline was very generous to provide us our drinks that night. Aside from that's not even true. I was down there. I was down there earlier, doing some work with the Lager House. I'm doing some video work with them. So I ate lunch down there before I started working. So I paid for lunch. Then worked. Then we went out, we did the show, and they graciously provided us with drinks. But then after the show, we went in and we all had dinner, and so I paid for dinner too. So no, I definitely spent a lot of money. Now the work that I'm doing down there is definitely a paid job, so that'll work out in the end. But as far as the podcast side, no, these Drinking with the Gnome episodes are really, they're not generating any money. Especially Drinking with the Gnome does not generate any money. And it definitely, the amount of drinks that you're buying is cost prohibitive. But it's too fun not to do it. It's all part of the game. I think that's, again, if anybody is listening to this that wants to start a podcast, especially if it's a beer podcast, make sure you love beer. Number one, make sure you love what you're talking about, no matter what that is. But if it's beer, especially in my kind of experience, make sure you enjoy it. Caroline says it's a write-off. In theory, we'll see what the tax man says at the end of the year. This is still an easy year because a lot of all of that. Meals and entertainment is still, I think, 100% deductible this year. We'll see how it breaks down next year. Julia says, I'm not in any of this to get anything for free. I do it because I love it and really enjoy the company out of the community. That's it 100%. And there's been a couple people that I've talked to over, especially we'll say over the last year or two, that I talk to that kind of have this idea to start a podcast or a blog or something like that. And I do think that there is some misunderstanding about it. And Tim says, don't you have to have a profit before you get to write stuff off? Yes. No, that's not necessarily true. You can write as much as you want off, but it's not going to do anything. But yeah, you probably need to be turning a profit. And not to get too behind the scenes, but that's also kind of, my business is very kind of wide reaching. So the website, the podcasts, YouTube, that's all definitely part of my business. But the videography that I do for other people and the photography that I do for other people, that all falls into it too. It's a kind of a big, wide encompassing thing. different divisions, I guess, within it. It helps. Elijah says that podcasting can be fun, it can be a headache, but ultimately, if it isn't enjoyable, it is absolutely not worth doing. And you'll definitely see people that will start a podcast and they'll, do 8 episodes, and then it'll peter out because they didn't really have that passion behind it all to start out with. But you have to really love what you're talking about. And at the end of the day, even if you can't get a guest on your show for a month, you have to still want to do the show, even if it means sitting by yourself and talking about whatever you want to talk about by yourself. You have to be willing to spend your own money to make it happen. And it's not expensive to do. It's not. You can make it expensive, but it doesn't need to be. You can buy an expensive mic like this, and it's great, and it sounds great, and it feels great to talk into it. But these are the microphones that I use for almost every episode of Cincy Brewcast. This is like a $15 microphone. These things are pieces of crap. I do that on purpose because if they get ruined or a beer gets spilled on them or they get lost or stolen or something, it doesn't matter. I think Marco just tried to call, but it went to voicemail, and I just didn't see it ringing. Hang on. I'm assuming that was Marco. Oh, yeah. Hang on. We'll call Marco back. Oh, I know why, Marco. It was my fault. I messed it up. Hang on. I had to change something, and now my phone isn't linked up with it. Give me just a second. There's that. There's that. Caroline says blame the internet. All right. I think we're calling Marco. See if this works. Except I can't hear it ringing. There it is. It's ringing.
Hey, you're on Drinking with the Gnome.
What's up, buddy?
What's up, buddy?
Sorry, I
didn't know the phone worked both ways. That's awesome.
It does, but you have to have it linked up with your phone. It's a whole little process.
Awesome.
Everything's a process.
I'm sure it is. So anyway, just on the podcasts and the money you put into it. If you're not passionate about it, if you only started up to hobnob, to get free stuff, and to try to forcefully ingratiate yourself into the community, number one, you're wrong for thinking that that's going to work. Number two, totally wrong reasons. You get into this because you love it, you're passionate about it. You are going to, in our case, Julie and I, we were going to listen to these podcasts anyway.
Right.
And we were going to, we love the fact that we were going to get together somewhere and talk about it. We were going to pay for our consumption. I'll just put it that way, because it's not always beer. It could be wine. It could be tequila. And you know what tomorrow is? Never mind. Wait for tomorrow. We were going to pay for our consumption. But the places who like what we do or really are believe in what we do, sometimes they throw us a bone, and that's appreciated but never expected.
Right.
And so for the ones who I think, let me put it this way, for the podcasts that are going to last for a while, they have passionate people who really care and love about the community. This is something they would do anyway, with or without any sort of concessions. And any sort of concessions that come their way, or things that are cool that come their way. And don't get me wrong, um, being at beer, booze, and bonks and getting to sit next to you or talk to your wife or, see the people there. I mean, that's ancillary.
Right.
Um, but, but, we were just for ourselves passionate craft beer enthusiasts about this market who wanted to get together to talk about the things that we're passionate about. And not only are we happy to pay for, what we consume, it's supporting that particular business. Now, that being said, it's nothing but we do nothing but dump money, energy, and time into all of it.
Right.
And so, anybody who subscribes to our Patreon, anybody who supported us through, the blue support us link to buy us a coffee, or any of that, it's all appreciated. But it all goes back into the podcast.
Right.
I am not going to, live in a house on this side and laugh at everyone on the west side just because of your donation. That is not the case. It's not the case at all. I have my driver's side rear view mirror is intact, and but we do this for our passion, and if we're able to every now and then, some place is gracious enough to throw us something that's wonderful, never expected, always appreciated, and being in this community is fantastic.
Well,
so you get into it for the wrong reasons. I think you find out very quickly that you're not going to sustain yourself.
well, but even if you can, like, so, I mean, we'll go out on a limb and say that if all of us can keep growing our podcast to the point where we're making actual money, it's turning a profit. It's also not something to feel bad about. You don't have to. That's been something
No,
that I've
no,
had to kind of balance out over the years. Of like, yes, you can
no.
you can create content and turn a profit with it and not feel guilty about that.
I don't know where I don't know where or why anybody thought the word profit was dirty. It's not a dirty word. Now, if our podcast ever got to the point where there was a profit, we would be very happy about that and try to cultivate that and continue that. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, with you through helping the vast community, understand how important trimming their balls was. If that helps you to be at a better financial place, I certainly hope that, and we advertise that and talk about that quite a bit. And I don't know what that niche is for us. We would love to have that, but by far the more nucleus of it is, if you don't love it, it's not a passion. If you're
Right.
just in it to try and make money, there's other things you can do. I go on TikTok, I do vertical videos and do like wardrobe change videos or something. But don't
You've been
get
looking
into
at my TikTok
don't get
history.
into beer podcasting. Don't get into beer podcasting because that is probably not where you're going to make your money. But us supporting this local industry and talking about the things that are important locally, and then every now and then tangentially, we as a podcast, Truther Pod, we talk about things that are national from a podcast standpoint.
Well,
But I just wanted to get in there. I don't want to hog your time. I know it was on the last drinking with the gnome and all that.
oh, you're fine.
I'm an occasional frequent guest, but I just want to say that, I mean, anybody who wants to do this, please reach out to all of us who do this to for information, for help. We
Yes.
welcome everybody into this community, but know what you're getting into, and please know that, I mean, this is this has to be a labor of love for you from the start. And you maybe down the line taking a path like the gnome to where you make what you do as your full-time job as far as content. um, Maybe that's a far off dream, and maybe you can realize it. But we do this because we're passionate about it. Um, we would drink these beers anyway. We would talk. We would listen to these podcasts anyway. And getting together and talking about them is just a fun way for us to have a release for what we would do anyway. And so
The Taste is Right podcast is on the stream, and they said that we need some help, but we're different from others. I want to, like, I don't want this to sound kind of doom and gloomish for other people that either have a podcast or want to start a podcast. You can definitely, especially if you're starting from scratch and you are just sitting around with your friends and talking about something, you can do that pretty cheap. Like, this does not have to be an expensive thing that you're putting on. It's easy to go down a rabbit hole and make it more expensive than it really needs to be. But you can make a podcast for. I mean, I would argue you can probably make a podcast for free. It won't sound as great as it could, but it doesn't have to be an expensive thing.
No, it doesn't. And we were fortunate enough as co-creators of a podcast, Julia and I, for Truth or Pod, to be able to say, hey, there's some things that would make this easier for us. So let's go ahead and invest into make it easier for us. But you could absolutely start off from a very inexpensive standpoint. The sort of a waterfall or rabbit hole you get into is that you want to have more guests, maybe you want to have more features, maybe you want to make editing easier. I mean, all these things are things that you could do easier with putting money into it, which we have done to a degree and haven't done to other degrees. But I mean, you could start very simply, and the really cool thing to think about is, as this community has podcasts and grows podcasts, and we welcome you and we want you to have them and grow them. What's next? What's the future? I mean, what are we going to have? What are we going to talk about? And when people when people across the country Google where should I go in Cincinnati, or what's the best places in Cincinnati, or podcasts about Cincinnati beer, the amount of volume that pops up that they have to look at and they have to sift through or want to look at, that tells them that we're a destination beer city. We're not a flyover city, and the things that they have at their disposal to be able to give them information about that is awesome. And I hope that it does nothing but grow. And then at some point, hopefully we can showcase all of that in some way, shape, or form. But this is fantastic. I've talked too long, and I truly, happy Weekly Pint is back for this week. And Noam, always great to talk to you, even though I talked to you last week after I missed my exit twice to get to the
you made it though. You made
Kindle
it.
Market. I did make it, and
how'd you do getting home?
Know, great, no problem.
Oh,
it
perfect.
was fantastic. Yeah, it was perfect. I missed my exit twice to get there. I was fine getting home. It was I don't know what to call it from the gods, that the dome we were in,
the Gnome Dome,
was the Cupid Dome.
Gnome
the
Dome.
number 6
It's the
Cupid
Gnome Dome.
I didn't say that on the outside.
Well, that's their fault.
We said it on the inside.
I'm gonna
but
change
on the
it.
outside it said Cupid.
But anyways, I'm gonna change it.
Yeah, that's fine. You can do that. It was a great time. I can't wait to hear how the other ones turn out. But I had a great time. And
Well,
so thank you for inviting me. I was flattered, and hopefully everybody enjoys the content. And if you do, Truther Pod every week, hit us up. And thank you, Noam.
no, thank you
Truly
guys.
appreciate it. I'm gonna hang up and listen to the
All
rest.
right.
So cheers.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, I
Bye.
see you later. I was talking to somebody earlier today. Actually, we can get into that a little bit. I got to meet the new ownership of Cartridge Brewing. So the Saucy Brewworks folks are in town right now. So I hung out at a happy hour with them to meet them, and was talking to the CEO. I don't know what it is. I'd have to look at the business card to see what his job title is. But the big guy in charge, I was talking to him kind of about what I do here in town, and we were talking about beer blogging in Cincinnati. And I don't know if everybody remembers this era of Cincinnati beer. When I started thenarlygnome.com, there were probably more blogs in town or close to it than there were breweries. There were so many people writing about and talking about beer compared to places that made beer. And I think that when folks like me kind of were coming up, I don't think, I know it made a lot of people a little angry that we've already got enough blogs in town. Why are you coming in and stepping on my toes? And when I look back at it now, especially from a perspective now where I want more people talking about beer, be it on a blog or on a podcast or on YouTube or things like that, talking about Cincinnati beer, and honestly feeling the value of having more and more and more voices and turning this city into something that is extremely special from a drinking perspective. When I think about it in context of when I started the website, like we had something really really crazy happening then, and I feel like we could get back to that point where we could have so many voices talking about beer in the city or drinks in the city that it could really start to turn some heads and get people to notice what is happening in Cincinnati. We all know that we've got great beer. We know we've got great bar scene. We've got great drinking culture in the city, and the problem with that is that there are a lot of cities that have really great drinking culture, and so it's easy for that to just become to become normal, and you need voices to showcase that a little bit louder than these places can do just on their own. So the point of all of this is, if you are if you're hanging out tonight, sorry, I'm keep rolling over my cord here. Hang on. If you're listening to this, hopefully you're not watching it because the internet is so bad that it's unwatchable, in my opinion. But hopefully you're hearing it and it sounds okay. And if you're watching this and you've ever wanted to start a podcast where you were talking about drinking in Cincinnati, now is the best time to do it. And hopefully people understand that there is a community out here of all of us that that there are enough of us out here that are writing about or talking about beer that can help you make that happen. Tim says, let's not get to the point where there are more blogs than breweries. 60 plus would be too many. I disagree. I think that you don't have to read them all. But if there is always there's always an opinion and a thought that is out there that deserves to be heard. It gets hard as a consumer to get all of that content, which would open up another door. There would definitely at that point, if there were 60 different blogs, there would be room for somebody to start a website that was just compiling kind of all of that into one spot and to kind of share the best of the best each week with people, that could be a thing. So I disagree. I think that there is no such thing as too many blogs. And the best will get more traffic than the worst, but there's a lot of space there. I mean, there should be blogs that are just doing beer reviews. You know, I have a whole section on my website where I'm supposed to be, doing tasting notes of beers, and I can't. I don't have time to do it. I have a backlog of tasting notes in my notes on my computer here that are like full on tasting notes that just need typed up, and then I have pictures of the beer that need edited and thrown in there and put on the website. I don't have time to do it. There's like at this point hundreds of them that need to be posted, and I can't do it. So that could be an entire blog. You could have somebody that their entire blog was just blogging about one brewery. If you really, really loved Madtree, you could just blog every week about what's going on at Madtree. I went in and this was the new beer on tap and this was the event, and you could just really dive into it and talk about it. And that could be a thing. Elijah says, I keep toying with the idea of a sour blogger podcast. 100%. Like there is just, you could have a blog where all you did was talk about nano breweries. All of these things are valid content things that people could be doing. And there's, I think that there's plenty of space. I get it that the amount of content gets hard. I was thinking about that the other day. I was sitting down here and I was typing something up and fired up YouTube, the TV I sit at the bar where I work a lot, and there's a little TV there above the bar, and I turned it on and was just kind of letting YouTube play some stuff. And you guys know how YouTube is, where sometimes you'll just think of a random thing and you'll start searching for it, and then you'll go down a rabbit hole and find hundreds and thousands of hours of content about this thing that randomly popped into your head. And something like that popped up, and this realization of how much content exists on YouTube that you'll never see because it isn't served to you because you've never searched for it or you've never watched something similar to it or whatever. But it's there, and there are plenty of people that are still consuming it. There's not, as time goes on, there's going to be more and more content for us to sift through, and it's not a bad thing. Julia says, I covered that tab once, and that was enough to be glad that we recorded home most of the time. Yeah, sometimes it can get expensive. Anyways, guys, I said it was going to be a short one, and we're hitting an hour. We're hitting an hour of very terrible internet, so we're going to wrap it up. But we'll be back doing another live stream on Thursday. Hopefully, I set everything up in the software here to make that easy to fire back up on Thursday without having to reset everything again. Hopefully, everything is in line to have an easy setup down there. I don't know who my guest is this week, so if anybody that's listening to this wants to come down and talk about winter drinking, especially, so we'll say hopefully Glühwein is the topic this week. Hopefully. I have a couple other topics that could work, but there's another pop-up on the computer. My daughter is buying My Town Police game, or she wants to buy it. Taste is Right podcast says, let's do it. You're more than welcome. If you want to come meet me at Moorline this Thursday, send me a message, and we'll make it happen. Marco says, Caroline is also definitely invited. I have, 3 more episodes? Is that right? I should have 3 more episodes. Yep, we have 3 more episodes to do down there. All of them on Thursday. So the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th are all going to be live. Drinking with the Gnome. Drinking with the Gnome is nice and easy. Short episodes, live streamed. It'll be evening, so 6:30-ish. And the ish is very, very important, as especially Marco last week had to sit and wait for me to finish up before I was ready to get out there and record. So shoot me a message afterwards here, and if you want to make it happen, we'll make it happen. But either way, everybody, there will be a live show this Thursday from the Schmidlap event lawn at Christian Moorland's Lager House, the Cincinnati Chris Kindle Market, where we are talking about oh my gosh, she's trying to buy another app. My Town, Plan a Wedding Day. I can see every app that she's downloading. They're free apps. Why is she planning a wedding? She's 5, for the record. Oh, goodness. Thank you guys for hanging out. We will definitely be back next week. Oh, man, hang on. I didn't pull up my my music here. Here I was talking earlier about how great the setup was this week and how perfect everything was. I don't even know the name of... I don't usually do this from my phone. Hang on. Dun-dun. There it is. Okay, we'll be back, guys. We'll be back next week. Julia says, she's buying another app. It is My Town, Airport, Fly and Travel. Something, this must be like some kind of like downloads within a game or something that she's playing. Don't ever have kids, guys. We'll be back next week. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. It's the Weekly Pint. It's not a show, so I'm not going to apologize for the internet again. But I'm sorry. Cheers, everybody. I just had the realization that if Marco called me tonight on the show for Ding-a-Ling Day, does that make me the old and out-of-touch friend? Crap. I'm really not old. Young at heart.